Hello, Flosstube. Elizabeth Martinez, phantastitches here with my update number 433. Today is May 2nd, Saturday, May 2nd, beginning of new month. Um, I'm going to be doing my, keep moving my computer around, sorry. So this is my Flosstube update. For those of you who might be new to the channel and when I stumbled across it, this is a channel about cross stitch. Um, yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, so yeah, if you're new, welcome. If you're a subscriber, thanks for watching and welcome back. And we're going on to the month of May. So one of the things we were talking about when I was doing the video with my sisters was the question of whether or not you participate in mania of some kind. There's various things going on at this point. There's market mania that some people are doing, which is any charts bought at a market, either this year's market or even previous year's market that you haven't started yet or whatever. Um, so some people are doing, new starts for all these charts they bought at market, and that's very tempting to me because I have a whole bunch of things that I bought at market, especially this year, um, and I even have had several pieces of fabric chosen for some of them. I had dyed a piece of fabric, or a couple of pieces of fabric, um, that I think would be appropriate for them because so many of them are, because of the sort of under the sea, beneath the waves, whatever the title was for this year's beneath the waves, the Stitch the Rainbow um, patterns, which is mostly what I bought. I don't know if I bought anything besides those in terms of patterns. I bought a few of the little extra things. Top Knot Stitcher had uh, a needle minder and a thread drop thing and whatever. So I bought, a few extras like that. But as far as charts go, I think all the ones I bought were from that Stitch the Rainbow collection, the Beneath the Waves thing. So they're smaller charts, um, and um, and they're all under the sea kind of themes. So so part of me is very anxious to get those started, but I'm obviously this today's May 2nd. I haven't done any. I don't have any plans for that, so I don't know if I'm going to do any of them at all. I'm very torn. On the one hand, I don't want to add to my whip pile; it's already huge, and on the other hand, I want to start all the things. But on another hand, if I had three hands, um, starting new charts is not my favorite thing. I love working on an existing chart, but starting it, you know, I, it's exciting on the one hand because yeah, I'm anxious to get this done or get this going, but I'm not always crazy about the idea of like I have to choose a piece of fabric and I have to make sure it's the right size and I have to start decide where I'm going to start. I'm going to start in the corner. I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to and that is not my favorite part of the cross stitch journey of a piece. So I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't know. But I do have all the new May WIPGO things to do. So I may not get around to that. Anyway, so speaking of WIPGO, I do have updates for the end of April. I think um, as of last Saturday, I had basically finished my two larger projects, or three larger projects. I showed you the progress I made on the animal cracker little fox thing, Blizzard, and where I had gotten to on the beneath the, what is it called? Under the Sea? Beneath the Sea? The Stacy Nash thing. The whale. Um, and then, let me see if I wrote it down, the actual name of it. Call of the Sea. Call of the Sea Whale. Beneath the Sea, Under the Waves, all this nautical things. Call of the Sea Whale. I think I showed you the progress I'd made on that, and I didn't stitch any more on that either. So, and then the third one for April was so Call of the Sea, Blizzard. It was one of the. It was the Bald Eagle. Yeah, I finished that. So those three whips I showed you last time. I mean, as of last time. So all I had left was the new starts for April. So one of them was by the Blue Flower, Iris. Was a little freebie for the market from 2025 market. I'm showing you this because there's no picture, it's just the chart. So this. um, so these were the night garden threads from last time. Um, of this, yeah, Concord grape is kind of a blue color, which is what I used primarily. It's the only one I used, I should say. Um, these other four colors, Merlot is this light purple one, Coffee and Cream, Parrot Bay is this green one, and then this was Concord Grape. But the names to me, when I think of Concord Grape, I think of like a more of a dark purple, and this is really a blue. And Merlot, I was thinking would be a sort of a reddish, color, but this is actually a very light purple. Either I don't know my wines or the I don't know. Anyway, I don't know my wines because I'm not a wine drinker. But anyway, these are the four colors, the four Night Garden uh, Threadworks colors. So I just did one. I used the Concord grape. Uh, this uh, the bottom petals of an iris. So this is all I did. I just did the one. I think I used only about two threads to finish that. They're pretty long cuts, and I decided to use. I started to work on this, and I started. This is. I want to say it's pretty small. I want to say it's maybe 36 count. This is one that our friend, I think it was Vicky, sent us a couple of grab bags of Stitch Me fabrics. And there were some Ada and some like even this kind of even weave kind of things in there. And some of them are very beautifully dyed. Some this one is like a more of a solid color, but it's kind of a light greenish color. Anyway, but it's very soft, very supple. I don't know all the details of it because, like I said, it was just a grab bag of these, smaller cuts like this. But my sister and I, when we got them, we went through all of them to try to figure out the stitch counts and to give them a general color, just for our own references. Um, and I think we had determined this was 32, but we were like looking at it, we were measuring and measuring and measuring, and there was a whole bunch of pieces. So, but I think this is probably more like 36 count. It seemed a little small for 32 count. But anyway, when I first started stitching this, I was doing 2/2, and I just had some random needle, that was just among my other things that I had some other project I'd finished or something, and when I was stitching with it, I felt like the needle was too thick for this fabric. So I went and found a smaller, thinner needle. But in the meantime, I felt like the two over 2 was also a little thick for the fabric, so I switched to 1 thread only. So this is 1/2, and you can kind of see a little bit of a gap in there, but I think that once the whole design is done, it won't really matter so much. But yeah, so that's 1/2. I'm not crazy about stitching with 1 thread, but on higher count fabrics, the smaller it is, of course, the more it matters. Um, I'm not like completely fond of this coverage. This is kind of like on the borderline, I think. If it were a higher count, smaller count fabric, it would look the 1 thread would be fine. Um, and probably if I had stitched it with 2 threads, it would be fine. Um, but yeah, yeah. So this is 1/2. But anyway, it's the beginning of Iris um, by Jeannine McGowan with the Blue Flower. So that was one of my April new starts. Another one was this Stitch Crypt Under the Full Moon. I had been wanting to start this. It's such a pretty pattern. I just love this owl and everything about it. This was stitched on, I want to say, charcoal gray fabric. I think it's by WIPGO. So again, I talked to you about my dilemma about the fabric that I dyed, and I did stitch on the little scrap that I was talking about, but I did not iron it, and I did not recount it, and everything like that. I just said, okay, I'm gonna go for it, because I started with this. I don't know if you can see it. This black. I mean, if you can see it better this way. The black sort of framing border around the design, because I thought if the fabric is not as wide as I figured it would be, if I didn't have enough margin on the edges, if I do just the one top line here, that'll tell me if it's wide enough, and if it's not, I can just set this scrap aside and use the bigger piece, and and I can frog that out later if I want to use the fabric or whatever. So I started working on this, and it was going well, except when so let me get here. I had done like this top thing here, and the little corners, because that's one thing, and then there's like a big gap, and then there's another piece down here. But then I did this second line because I thought, okay, that'll fit. There's enough of a margin here, it'll work. Because another thing I wasn't sure of, I was like, is it really 32 or is it 28? Because if it's 32, it'll fit. If it's 28, it might not fit. Not with enough, enough of a margin over here for finishing, right? So, but I wanted to put this moon in here, and so I like I said, I did this other inner border thing, and I started to stitch the moon, and I got partway through it, and it was like it's gonna bump up against this, uh, on this side. It's gonna be over too far. It's there's something wrong. And I realized that up here, when I did this top frame thing, when I started on this corner, and there's a place here where, and you can lift it up here, you can see through it a little bit. Anyway, there's a gap here there's like, you stitch a little bit, and then there's like 3 blank stitches that you skip over, and then you continue on and do all that. And then it repeated on this side, right? There's a gap of those 3 stitches. And when I did the gap on this side, I just, without thinking, I had counted 3 stitches, and then I actually stitched on the 3rd stitch instead of stitching on the 4th stitch, right? The 4th space. So I had 2 empty stitches instead of 3 on this side. And so when I went all the way across, and it was hard too because it was hard to count, how many stitches did I do on these longer things, did I do 12 or not yet or whatever. It was a little harder to see because it's black on black basically. Um, but anyway, so I got all the way over here, and when I got to this corner, I just checked, instead of checking the pattern, I checked on this side, and so I repeated the same mistake over here. I just did skipped over 2 stitches instead of skipping over 3 because I just did what I had done on this side. So, and then on this side, when I did this corner, I had gone down to finish, when I was doing this, to finish the thread, I just went down and stitched that. And then I had, fortunately, had not done this vertical line here on this side. But anyway, so I went back and I sort of like just took those 2 corner pieces and moved them out. And I took, the only big froggy thing I did was I took out this um, line because I had to. So I took all of that out and moved it over and stitched it again. And this time um, I also stitched this part here. So I started on the moon here, and it fits perfectly now. um, and it still, fits in this, you know, I kind of, wish, I could have stood to like move the whole thing over a little bit, when I was calculating whether or not it would fit. Um, but I think I have enough on there for finishing and all that. So anyway, so I did this moon, and you can kind of see a little bit of the gray, the difference in here, but there's like 3 different shades in this little piece of the moon. There's a B5200, and then there's a 728, which is also basically white. When you glance at it, it looks white, but it's just a slightly different shade of white. And then the darker here, you can see is like 414, and yeah, so they're very close in color. So I have to count very carefully to make sure I have it. I'm in the right place and the right cut. Because it doesn't stand out just instantly. I have to really look. But anyway, so these are my the new starts I had for April. So I have like a piece of thread hanging over here. So I might do a little more just to finish off that thread I have or whatever. But basically, that's my new start for April for this number. So technically, I've already hit the goal and I don't have to do any more, but I kind of would like to, like I said, finish that thread. The other new start I had in April was this little diamond painting elephant here. You can actually see it better on the larger, if I hold out yeah, this is a little baby elephant looking at its reflection in the water. And so what I did was these purple things over here. I didn't quite finish. It has like a section right here of this same purple color that goes in here that I didn't get to when I was working on it. I just really worked on it one day. So you can see that here. And I'm still kind of a color completist, which doesn't work so much for this because it is sort of very pixelated. So you have, a handful of this color, a handful of that color. And if you put them all in there, you can like work on this. If you work like from the corner and just to finish it, it's a little bit easier than if you're trying to skip around like I was doing on here. But it's just the way my brain works. It's easier for me to say, I've already got this color out. I'm going to do them all, So, yeah. So, like I said, part of me wants to go ahead and finish this, So, I don't know if I feel so inclined, I may finish it. But that's my other my third new start for April. So again, technically, I'm finished with it. It's just that, that I like it well enough. It looks really nice and and cute and all that, but it's not as quick for me as cross stitching. It's just not. It's just a little more. I don't know what the term I want to say is, but it's because it is like one little thing at a time. I mean, cross stitching is that way too, right? Basically, you're doing you're basically doing one X at a time. I mean, whether you do out and back or you're stitching one X at a time, but it for me it goes faster. And maybe it's just my because I'm not as skilled at diamond painting as I am at cross stitching, and so but yeah, so it's just one of those things. It's I like it well enough, but I don't see me doing a whole lot of it. Just it's not my favorite hobby, right? So the other thing I did was I stitched on to my dear father. I talked about this last time that I wanted to do it for my dad's birthday, but I ended up not taking it with me to Albuquerque. His birthday was on the 20th. Maybe I did take it. I don't remember, but I didn't work on it. That was the day of my cousin memorial, and then we were doing other things that later that day that night. So I ended up not stitching on it. But so last Monday, which is a week later, I went ahead and worked on it. So this is by Little Robin Designs to my dear father. It's in French up here on the top. Mon cher père. But and I don't know what the significance of the date is. I think I talked about this before. She doesn't say on her website where this design came from or what the significance of that date is or whatever. I don't know. But I stitched on it just a little bit more of this. It's white, this parchment color, just to fill out, some of the stuff on the roof. And the most significant thing you can see is I did these sort of windows here. And then there's like a picket fence and water and stuff down there. I did a little bit. This was done before, but anyway, so I finished, working on some of the more of this parchment color, which is almost the same color as the fabric. But you'll see it better because it's the design is not quite full coverage, but in this area where where the house is and all that, it is basically. But so yeah, so I did just one day work on it, I think. So I don't know when I'll finish that design, but because it's not on my regular WIPGO board, but so I've only done like 1 or 2 days on it here or there for my father's birthday or for Father's Day. Um, but so I may go ahead and put it on my regular WIPGO rotation, just so that so I can get more significant time done working on it. And then for my I talked about my May WIPGO things. Let me pull these out of the way here. The Silver Creek samplers, Lost and Found, the one with the sheep. Yeah, this one, I think I think I showed this, yeah, last week. That um, so I'd like to finish this sheep, and I'd like to finish all these leaves on this tree. I'd like to finish the whole design, but so there's just little bits left here and there, like the insides of these little diamonds on the border, and there's more of it on the bottom. Again, the leaves here, the words should go pretty quickly once I get around to it, And I'd like to finish the sheep just because, you know, I want to finish it. But so, you know, yeah. So we'll see how that goes when it comes up. So my goals for my whips are 7 days generally, and so I'm going to be working on my current whip um, for the rest of this week. I just started on it yesterday. Yesterday was first. Yeah, I started on it yesterday, so I'll get to that in a second. But then I have, you know, two more new starts. The Nevermind by uh, Lindy Stitches. This Nevermind, quoth the passive aggressive raven, and Moongazer. I talked about these by Heartstring Samplery. So I talked about those last week. So I haven't gotten to any of that yet, of course, because it's only the 2nd of May. But I decided to start with Millie. The other animal cracker, one of the other animal crackers. I think chili is on my WIPGO. I don't know if I've gotten to that yet. I think I may have earlier. I have to look at my WIPGO chart, but anyway, so I'm working on Millie. And on this one, I had done just a few lines of this blanket. This is the blanket on the elephant's back. And so I had done just a little, you know, square of it, rectangle of it, a few lines of it, as you know, because I think last time these the animal crackers came up, they came up on whatever the month was that had three, you know, that had three numbers called. The 13th square was called, and so there were three for that month. And I don't even remember uh, when it was last year, but that particular month had three, and so I had a lot. I think it was like maybe in the summer, like during cross stitch camp or something. I remember it was a very hectic, you know, crammed month. So it may have been, you know, cross stitch camp plus the three WIPGO numbers. So I barely got in my new starts. So that's why I had that just the scarf from Blizzard, and I think at the time I had done just a little bit of Chili, the penguin, and then that just those, you know, like this much of the blanket for this elephant. So I've been working on just yesterday and a little bit today on finishing this blanket. So I have about, I don't know, I want to say 5 more rows to go before this blanket is finished, maybe more than that. I think I'm on the eighth of the set of the 8 rows I have to do. I think I'm on the first one of those. But so, yeah, and I, you know, and I kind of thought about like working on so there's sort of a little border thing around the blanket, or maybe these where these white holes are. There's another color that goes in there. I thought about doing that just because, you know, just the tedium of just stitching the one color, you know, because it's just a block of that color with these spaces left for the you know, the darker thread here. But since these are not like they're not regularly spaced, right? They're up and down, and you know, different things between them and all that. So I didn't want to, you know, miscount up here, you know, where I would have to sort of wing it. So I decided, you know, not to do that because I don't want to make. There's a knot here or something weird. Uh, I didn't want to make a mistake. Same thing with the border. You know, I don't want to have to forget. So yeah, so I'm sticking with this blanket part, and you know, hopefully I'll finish that maybe today or tomorrow. And apparently I left a little knot or something in here. I can feel it in my stitches. Can't see any specific direct evidence of it, but I can feel it. Anyway, so this is my progress of the, like, basically one day, a little over one day. So hopefully I'll finish this blanket part, the main part of this blanket, um, today. So this is like an even weave. I know I bought this color. I did not dye it myself. Um, and I think I just bought it like at Hobby Lobby or someplace. So, but it's 32 count even weave, I believe. But it's sort of a minty green color. Yeah. So, so this is Millie the elephant. So I think that's all of my stitching that I have to do, but I do have a little bit of a shop update. Our Etsy shop. Oh no, I want to show this. Um, I last week I talked about the this little snowman. It's this woman, I think, little female snowman, that I did last week, and so I went ahead and finished the other one from the kit. It's a little snowman with a lantern and glasses and a little scarf and hat, and there's a little pom pom on his hat here. So yeah, so this is my first Lego kit that my nephew bought me last October, this past October. So yeah, I finished them. So that's not. I'll put it with my Christmas decorations. I have actually a little at Hobby Lobby. They had Christmas things, because I remember we had a little Christmas get together thing, and I remember asking my sister if she wanted me to get these paper plates, because they had these uh, Christmas. They were kind of a dark maroon and gold lettering. I can't remember what the lettering said, but they had a whole line of Christmas things like that at Hobby Lobby. They had plates and napkins and other decorative items for your house, whatever. But one of the things they had that I went ahead and bought the plates. We didn't use them for that get together, but we used them at home. Um, but one of the things I bought was this sort of cylinder, cardboard like cylinder thing, because I thought, well, I could put Christmas decorations in that, whatever. But I think that's what I'm going to put these in, just so that I know where they are and I can have them make Christmas stuff, you know. Anyway, so that's my Lego kit. But we have a little bit of a shop update. Last week I talked about the project bags. Um, so those are they are in the Etsy shop now. But then also, this continuing this semi quincentennial patriotic theme are these. This was in the Etsy shop already. These are little, just patriotic things. They have the red, white, and blue baubles, and then they have these larger USA charms on the bottom. So there's those two. And like I said, these are all in the shop now. There's this one. This is a new one. This is it's got these little star beads, and some of these little round beads. And this little, oh sorry, this little flag charm on the back, it says "Land of the Free because of the Brave." There's one. So these are all scissor fobs. They're all in the Etsy shop already. And so the two with the United States things were in there already, and the rest of these are all new, that Eve made. So this one, there's sort of a big wooden star here, and these are wooden beads. These little red, white, and blues, and then a smaller star bead on top. So there's that. Those two, and there's this one is just one of these. This one also has those wooden patriotic beads, and then just one small of the smaller stars. That one's there. And then there's two two of these. They have the star beads and the round beads, and they say USA on the bottom. These are similar to the ones on the project bags, but they're just slightly different, a different design. They were purchased separately, differently. So there's two of those, and then these are individual things. This one, I don't know if you can see these little cubes have letterings that says USA on there, and there's a star, and there's some little star beads up here. Yeah, this has little white. I don't know if you can see little white stars, but they say USA. Yeah, there's that one. And then another one is this one has the little rounded beads, but the words say freedom on there. And then there's a couple of those little star beads. But so there's this scissor fob. So all of those are in the Etsy shop. So if you want to check those out, to go with your patriotic bags or whatever for the semi-quincentennial, there it is. Anyway, so I think that is all I have going on for this coming week. So like I said, I'm going to start. I am still torn about the Mania idea. You know, I did Mania when, I guess when I first heard about it, I think back in, I want to say 2019 or thereabouts, that instead of doing, I don't think I ever did the 31 new starts, a new start for every day in the month of May, what like a lot of people were doing. I don't think I ever did that. This is before I started doing WIPGO. But I did like something like, I may have done it in 2019 or maybe 2021 or something like that, where you match the number of new starts with the year. Like 2019, you do 19 new starts, something like that. I did, and then I did what I called Ship Mania, because I had 4 ship patterns. So I did a week on each one. I still haven't finished any of them. Right now they're in storage. The bane of my existence. We did get a few things out of storage, but like our bead trays. Not all of them, apparently. We were realizing, oh yeah, one of our boxes that has a bunch of beads in it is still somewhere in the storage unit. But we got the one drawer unit we had that had beads and stuff in each drawer, tools and things like that. So Eve was able to to sit and make those patriotic scissor fobs the other day, this past week. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so I did the ship mania one year. So I did a week on each of those ship patterns, and then I don't know. I think I did maybe one other mania one year, a similar, matching with a year or something like that. But then I started doing WIPGO, and I think I stopped doing Mania just because it's too much. But I do have a lot of those, beneath the waves market patterns. But I also have, my dilemma right now is the semi quincentennial stitching, because I'm gonna do cross stitch camp, assuming that we're going to have it, because I think Sherry from Colorado Cross Stitcher, I think she had mentioned that she's going to be uh, announcing that, I think this month. Um, so I have a dilemma of like, do I save out my patriotic stitching because I know, because I assume one of the months, you know, June, July, maybe June or July, I'm assuming. Um, I'm assuming one of those at least is going to be something to do with the uh, semi-quincentennial. Um, and I've got like one, two, three, four projects that are patriotic in theme. I'm not really like a big patriotic stitcher just because it doesn't occur to me. You know, it's not that I have anything against the U.S. or anything like that. It just doesn't occur to me because I'm all too busy doing other things, right? You know, cute little animals and whatever. But for this, I kind of wanted to do something for the for 250th anniversary. So I have a Barbara Anna. It's an older pattern. Um, Long May She Wave, I think is what it's called. But that's very nice. But it's got lots of little details. That's a bigger chart. And then I've got one by Stitching with the Housewives, Sam and Liberty, and it's one of those "What's in Your Cup" series, I think. So it's Uncle Sam holding a cup, and there's I think a chick in the cup. But anyway, so there's that one, and that's pretty small. You know, most of the there are several of the Stitching with the Housewives patterns are smaller, so that's another one. Um, uh, Another one I have is an Abraham Lincoln themed. It has like a quote. What is it called? I think it's called "Stand Firm." Um, but it basically says, you know, like, you know, choose choose where you're going to stand, and then, you know, once you're decided you're right, and then stand firm for, you know. But anyway, whatever the quote is, it's an Abraham Lincoln quote. But it's also I think it's on the sort of the medium size. It's not as big as the Barbara Anna, not as small as the Stitching with the Housewives thing. So there's that. And then another one that I just bought recently is Freedom Flock. It's one of those animal stack things, but from Plum Street. So there's, you know, three eagles on there. I think I showed it on this channel when I first bought it. But so there's that. So I have those four patterns to choose from, but I don't know which one. If Sherry does a patriotic theme for one of the you know, for at least one of the uh, Carthage campings, you know, I think, do I wait and do that? So I think maybe this month, maybe I'll start on the Barbara Anna because it's bigger and it's not something I would choose for one of the cross stitch camp projects, because with cross stitch camp, of course, you start at the beginning of the month and try to finish it by the end of the month, right? So June 1st to June 30th, whatever. And I thought, if I want to do one of the other patriotic things, then most likely I would do the Salmon Liberty because it's a smaller project. So the others, I want to do all of them, but I'll probably start on the Long May She Wave. If I could start it this month, it'd be great. And also the Stand Firm, I kind of want to do. I want to do Freedom Block too. I want to do all of them, but I think, you know, but I don't know which would fit the prompt better. It just depends on what the prompt is, because I don't think I've ever done a Barbara Anna, but again, I would not choose that because it's so big. I wouldn't be able to finish it by the end of the month, and that, you know, I want to meet the goal. The the Abraham Lincoln one, I can't remember who the designer is now off the top of my head, but it's like, you know, it just depends on what her prompt is, whether it would fit, you know, in that category. But I'd want to do it before the 4th of July just because, you know, because. So I don't know. I don't know. But I think I'll try to probably try to start with the Barbara Anna just because it's such a big chart. If I could start it this month, then maybe I'll finish it. I can finish it before the 4th of July. I don't know. But anyway, so that's my dilemma with the patriotic themed starts. But in the meantime, I will stitch on Millie the elephant and hopefully see how far I can get in that on that for in a week. Um, but yeah, so I think that's all I have for this week, and hopefully I'll have some significant progress and maybe a decision on my patriotic stuff. Um, and yeah, I'll be able to share that with you next week. So yeah, until then, was there something else? Oh, I was gonna tell you, our shower, our shower thing is basically finished. We still have, there's a question of we were the whole reason for doing the shower change, since they were tearing up the bathroom, because they had to replace the vanity, the sink, you know um, and because of that, they had to do repairs to the eaves closet, which backs on the sink, and then blah blah blah. If there was water damage, but so while we were at it, we had talked to them about doing an ADA shower in that bathroom. Uh, so the whole idea was for the ADA shower was having a low threshold, to step in, and then having grab bars on the side, um, to to facilitate getting in and out of the shower, and big enough for, like, I have a shower chair to fit in there, um, either a built-in seat in the shower or room to that would accommodate my shower chair. So the idea was, again, the grab bars, the low threshold, and big enough for the shower chair. Um, and so so that had all been talked about and approved, whatever. But when they were installing the shower, I guess there's like one guy that was in charge of the project, and then other guys that were the contractors that came and did all the work. But somewhere in that, the grab bars were not installed when they did the shower. And there's also not like I would prefer a handheld shower head, but I don't know if they talked about that or not. Um, so there's just a regular shower head, which is problematic for me on the one hand, but whatever. Um, but there are no grab bars in there, and so it's not like a disaster for the end of the world, but it is something that the whole point of doing the ADA shower was the grab bars, the built-in, screwed into the wall grab bars, not the suction cup kind that I've had before, but the screwed into the wall kind. They're more stable and something to hold on to getting stepping in and out of the shower. Um, but so yeah, so we're still apparently the guy who's in charge of the thing is on vacation or something, won't get back right away, so it's a little bit of a delay. But so since we paid for the shower, the bars, as part of the shower thing, we want to make sure that gets taken care of, because that's the whole point of the ADA shower. Otherwise it's just a walk-in shower like you would put in any house, and that's not the point of that, right? So anyway, apart from that, our shower is finished. I used it last night. Um, and there are a few things we want to tweak in there, like the shower bars, but like the grab bars. But also, I think a handheld shower head is for me is makes it a little easier to deal with than a way up on the wall kind of thing. Um, but anyway, so it's finished, but it's not finished. But it's nice to have, like, the ability to go in there and you know, to use it. So yay for that. Just has, like I said, has a little bit of tweaking left. Anyway, so yeah, that's a nice little, you know, perk to come along. Anyway, so again, I will see you all next week, and thanks for watching. And yeah, until then, bye.